When you know that you are queer, but your favorite drink is beer, that's gayish. You can bottom without stopping, but you can't stand going shopping, that's gayish. Oh, gayish, you're probably gayish. Well, life's just too short for narrow stereotypes, so it's gayish. We're also gayish. It's Gayish with Mike and Kyle.
Hello, everyone in the podcast universe. This is Gayish,
the podcast that has fallen on hard mimes.
Are they allowed to scream?
Nope.
No?
It just sounds like...
Great. I'm Mike Johnson.
I'm Kyle Getz.
We're here to bridge the gap between sexuality and actuality. And today
we're talking about farming.
We're talking about farming.
Farming.
E-I-E-I-O.
Great. Beautiful.
It's great.
But first,
here's the news.
What?
That was abrupt.
Oh, do we can dally around in this area?
It's fine.
What's been going on, Mike?
No, it's fine.
No? Tell me. Tell me now what's been going on.
I'm going to do some news stories.
Okay,
great.
Shut your mouth hole. It's time for your ear holes. News.
So, on Friday, a federal appeals court ruled that an Indiana school district did not violate a former music teacher's rights by forcing him to resign. He was forced to resign because he was refusing to use the names of his trans students.
Oh, great.
The 7th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals is upholding a prior judge's ruling here. But
you can't bully your students. Like that. That's what... If you don't use their proper name, you're like bullying a child.
Yeah. Well, and so of course it's religion, right? Like that's what he's claiming. In 2014, he started teaching music and orchestra at Brownsburg High School, which is northwest of Indianapolis. And teachers were instructed to use the pronouns and names that were listed in the school's official student database. Parents and doctors could be used to change the pronouns and names in said database. But when that happened, he said no. He said that his Christian religious beliefs prevented him from acting in compliance with that school policy. And
you should find a different job then.
That he had religious objections to using trans students' names and pronouns. So there was this fucked up compromise position where... Remember, this is orchestra. He got around it for a little while by only using their last names.
Oh.
So he wouldn't use pronouns at all. He would just use their last names like they were fucking football team.
Yeah, playing football in Texas, everyone called me Gits.
Yeah.
Gits. Play sports better. Gits.
So. Yeah, so they rolled out this policy that they had to use what was in the database, and he asked officials whether the rule would apply to him. They responded that he could either abide by it, resign, or be fired. In response, he resigned and sued. So, in its ruling, the court noted that district officials tried to consider his religious objection, but realized that using last names by the music teacher disrupted the learning environment. And the court found that students felt disrespected, targeted, and dehumanized. Yeah,
it's not... If someone was just naturally doing that would be one thing. But they know what he's doing. It's...
Well, and apparently he also was not doing that some of the time for some of the students.
Yeah.
And anyway, the court said no. That does not violate your religious freedoms, you dickbag fuckface asshole.
Yeah.
But that means the next step is the Supreme Court.
Oh,
so
wow.
We'll see how that goes.
Oh, boy.
Fuck those people.
Yeah.
Okay, next. News the second. So there is a popular gay couple on Russian TikTok.
Okay.
And they have been arrested and charged with violating their anti-LGBTQ plus laws.
Yeah.
That's happening this week. Russian Gela Gogishvili, going to go with that.
Okay.
23, told Newsweek that he and his Chinese national boyfriend Hao Yang-shu, who's 21, were arrested by police in the city of Kazan on Wednesday and charged under a series of Russian laws that include a ban on the positive depiction of LGBTQ plus persons in media.
Good for that. That sucks that they have to be the person, but good for... I'm always so impressed by people like that are I know I could definitely go down for this. And it's like the Russian government, so like who knows what the fuck would happen, but like that's awesome.
Well, and apparently their TikTok channel is popular. There's over 370,000 followers and over 65,000 subscribers. Because in TikTok, I guess followers and subscribers are different things, different numbers. Rate, review, subscribe, and recommend, everybody. Gogishvili was released because he's a Russian national, but Hao Yang remains in a Russian jail and is facing the threat of deportation immediately. So the way all of this went down, so they said in a video posted to their YouTube channel week before last that their lives were crazy and they learned that they were under investigation for promoting their life as a gay couple on social media. Shu learned one of the teachers at the university where he is a student received a warning from the police about the content of their social media. They said, you can't behave like that, and you need to follow the law of Russia and the traditional values of the country. After that, I was very scared. Yeah. So then they said that the police started looking for them in March. They visited pharmacies across the city with a picture of Gogishvili, who is employed as a pharmacist. They also claim police were able to send a message to them via the messaging program WhatsApp.
My God, getting a WhatsApp message from the police?
Yeah.
That's scary.
They were told that they had been charged under the anti-LGBTQ plus laws, but only needed to sign some papers and pay a fine. They left them the option of visiting the police station or having an unarmed police officer come to their home. The two men said that they were suspicious because they'd been subjected to hate and abuse in recent years, so they told the police they would think about it. On Wednesday, the police stopped the couple at a museum. They were at a museum with friends. They took Shu back to the apartment to retrieve his passport and visa, took the pair to the local police station. They were questioned. Gogishvili said police tried to force the couple to sign papers admitting their guilt, but they refused. And apparently their supporters, their social media, their TikTok, what's the like, I watch TikTok? I consume TikTok.
Talk fellow.
A talk fellow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, their talk fellows freaked out, and so they released Gogishvili,
because their fans freaked out. That's bad reason.
That's what the Advocate article claims. Anyway,
that's a bad reason to really. I mean, I'm happy for them, but that's a bad reason to release someone from prison.
Yep. Anyway, they're expected to appear in court later today, so something may have happened. Probably already has happened. It's just not been reported yet. By the time this goes to the air, it for sure has happened. Gogishvili said, a quote, I'm holding in tears because I don't have time to cry right now.
Oh God, that's so sad.
Yeah. If they're convicted, immediate fines, and Shu would be immediately deported probably. So,
that's rough.
Yeah. Anyway, fuck you, Russia.
Yeah, fuck Russia for so many reasons.
News the last. So, first of all, Easter eggs are the drag queens of the dairy world. And
okay. I just needed a second to get there. Okay. I think I'm with you.
So for Easter in WeHo yesterday, there were thousands of demonstrators in colorful outfits in a march of solidarity with drag queens and other LGBTQ plus individuals who right-wing extremist policies across the country have been attacking lately. They called it their first annual drag march. And it's the pictures are adorable. There's, of course, shitloads of drag queens and lots of just very queer people and colors and glitter and just it's what I think Jesus would approve.
Yeah.
He is risen. Let's party. Also in San Francisco, they always have the Hunky Jesus contest.
What?
On Sundays?
I've not heard of that.
A fraternity brother of mine went to that and knows the guy that won. Huh. Apparently, he's won many years in a row. Anyway,
I went as Gay's Jesus one Halloween.
I bet you were good at it.
I cut my robe real short, like a little shorty robe.
Yeah, and
Crown of Thorns hurts, man.
Well, I think that's the point.
I got a plastic one that was a little too tight, so it legitimately hurt me. I was like, I know what Jesus went through.
Of the two of us, you're the Jesus-y one.
Thanks.
Yeah. California Democratic State Senator Scott Wiener attended the event and spoke to everybody. He's been out since the early 90s, and he said, quote, "If you had said to me that in 2023 we would still have to be arguing about whether we have a right to exist, that they would still be calling us pedophiles and predators and groomers, if you had told me that, I would have said there's no way that in 2023 that's what would be happening." They don't want to talk about the fact that children are getting shot and killed in classrooms in this country. They don't want to talk about the fact that so many people are dying of drug overdoses because of lack of access to health care. They don't want to talk about the climate emergency or income inequality or any of the real issues that are facing our country. What do they want to talk about? That drag queens and trans people are somehow the biggest threat to this country. That's what they want to talk about.
Because they're the ones that are causing all the other shit. So they can't talk about, like, they get too much money from gun, like the NRA and gun lobbyists, to like, they gotta turn the focus on something else, and unfortunately I think it's working for them.
Yeah. Fuck, Kyle. I wanted Happy Drag Queens Marching to be like the positive anchor story for the news today.
I mean, it's the idea that our community has been through shit and will continue to go through shit and will always come together and work together and fight for our rights because we're the ones that have each other's backs. Like, that's something you could depend on from the LGBT community.
You know what else you can depend on, Kyle?
Depends.
Yes.
I'm depending on them right now.
Yep. Also, don't fuck with drag queens.
Don't fuck with drag queens, man.
Fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
That's the news.
That's the news. Speaking of the most beautiful people I know, I want to thank the following.
I'm right here, Kyle.
I want to thank Michael Johnson, my beautiful co-host, and no one else.
Great.
But also some subpar people to throw in as well. Lindsay Ray Barnes. You have three names like a serial killer. Thomas Robertson.
Barnes on the farming episode.
Barnes.
Did you plan that?
Yes. Yep. Thomas Robertson. You know, like sons. People's sons work on farms.
Yeah.
Crazy coincidence. And also, Kevin loves Danny Carrillo. I think
Kevin.
I think you owe us $25 for 100 words there. I think you can't sneak secret messages into your username.
Did you just Bob we at a baby eats a boy?
Yes.
Call.
Anyway, no, Kevin, that was very smart, and we hope that Danny Carrillo loves you back. If you want to join our Patreon, get bonus content episodes, just support us, a lot of shit, then go to patreon.com/gayish podcast.
While we're in the Patreon section, I posted a message to Patreon to clarify that the discount code for the live show tour is going to go up on May 1st. So just be patient.
Yeah, you will get a specific code to any of the 6 shows that we are doing this year. Discount code, you can use it at any time to get a discount on your tickets.
Yep.
So, yay.
Great.
Do you want to talk about farming?
Let's talk about farming. So I'm going to open this up.
No, I am.
Oh, okay.
This Urban Dictionary.
See how easy that was?
No, okay, this Urban Dictionary term had 0 upvotes and 1 downvote.
Great.
And it is gay farmer.
Great.
The definition is a jolly rancher. That's my Urban Dictionary section. Great. Okay, now back to you, Mike. Awesome. For maybe something substantial. I also, on the Patreon segment, I will share with you what gay farming, their definition for gay farming. It's nasty.
It's nasty?
It's nasty.
Okay, great.
So we're going to hold that for the Patreon segment. But go ahead.
Okay.
What do you got, Mike?
Okay, great. So
I'm done for this episode, by the way. That's all I had for this episode. It's all you.
I mean,
I'm chilling.
It's done.
It's done.
Great. It's our show. We can do what we want.
Alley-oop.
Okay, so obviously not going to talk about the history of farming. It's been around forever.
Yeah.
What is missing from the history of farming is, like a lot of other parts of history, queer people.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult for me to find anything that had to do with gay queer people in a farming context, with one exception. One of the earliest written defenses of gay people was found in a farmer's diary from January of 1810. So there was a naval surgeon that was being executed for sodomy, and he wrote in his journal, "It appears a paradox to me how men who are men should possess such a passion, and more particularly so if it is their nature from childhood, as I am informed it is, if they feel such an inclination and propensity at that certain time of life when youth genders and develops into manhood, it must then be considered as natural. Otherwise, as a defect in nature, it seems cruel to punish that defect with death."
Yeah.
So anyway,
When was that from?
1810, January of 1810. He wrote that in his journal.
That's pretty early.
Yeah, super duper early. Matthew Tomlinson was his name. He was a farmer from West Yorkshire in northern England. Anyway, that's like one of the first examples of somebody writing out their thoughts about why maybe we shouldn't kill gay people. Anyway,
should I just like journal more in case something I have to say is relevant and like?
No, that's what we're doing now. Oh, the internet is forever.
That's true. Yeah, I'm actively doing it.
And it's only a matter of time before we're canceled for everything that we've said.
Oh.
But then you also usually talk about gayta, which you informed me in the production meeting, because we have those, that you don't have gayta. And here's maybe why.
It's kind of calling me out.
Well, but here's maybe why. No definitive figures measure how many LGBTQ people farm in America. The USDA, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, asks respondents to identify their sex in its 5-year census, but not their sexual orientation or gender identity. The department is considering adding those questions to the 2027 census. It conducted a pilot study in late 2021 to gauge whether their inclusion would affect response rates. What do you think happened?
They went up.
Responses significantly decreased when those questions were added, despite the survey's confidentiality. The study lacked possible explanations for that finding, but I'm curious what you think is going on.
Is that like your family's there like watching over you or something? Like,
yeah, I mean,
or you're worried, even if it says it's confidential, you're like worried by just like writing it down that someone actually will know and they can trace your handwriting, or like the big government is gonna, is actually tracking this and has a list of people. Like, I wonder if there's paranoia.
Yeah, maybe. I think that there's likely some of that, right? Like, I don't have the answers either, but I'm going to guess, having grown up in that environment, I'm going to guess that it is a combination of paranoia and a combination of the power of self-deception. Like, writing shit down makes it real. And a lot of that life, that existence, is denial of reality. And living this carefully constructed version of yourself that fits in. Yeah. And we're going to talk a lot more about that.
Yeah.
Coming up. Anyway, apparently we've just not been actually studying or like collecting the data for how many people out there are queer. There was one researcher who did a cross-reference with a couple of national databases to figure out which married couples were same-sex married couples. So we have some data on same-sex couples that own farms, but it's not very good data.
Yeah, that's rough, because you can be a opposite gender couple and someone's bi or someone's trans. Like, there's a million reasons that undercounts. But it makes sense. Like, at a minimum, like, you at least get something rather than nothing. I can see that, as long as you then factor in the downside of having a like any kind of number is like, then that's the number just people grab onto. Even if you're like, this isn't totally accurate, here's what we have, then people just latch onto that number. And I see this all the time when using data. It's like, sometimes I tell like my clients or whatever, like, I will not give you this information because it's wrong. It's so off. It's like, and I know you say that that it's off, but then I'm going to say it. And then in 2 weeks, you're going to be like, nope, that's the number. And I'm going to like, sometimes it's better to not say a number.
Yep. I'm with you.
But like, I mean, I would still rather add it in and have some people not report it, and still like, because you're basing it on not everyone's filling it out regardless. Like, that's just going to be how some of these things work. And I'd rather have like that question, and then we can start to get some percentages with those that do fill it out.
Yep. I agree. Hopefully they decide to include it because I think it's important.
Yeah.
But
does the U.S. Census now have sexual orientation on it? Did that finally change?
The federal the 10-year census. I don't believe so.
I think because I thought they there was like a whole thing under Trump where like they had it on the draft, but then it got removed. Like I don't know that I still
that's
know
ringing a bell. That seems like something that dickbag fuckface asshole would do. Right?
I forget if we now ask that, but it was something like I don't know that. It's not like this is completely behind the times. This is like kind of on par with where we are at just asking some of these basic questions that we should be, which is silly. Well, so even though we didn't mention why we're doing this. We had every month
Patreon.
We have Patreon. Every month we have a Patreon vote on one of 3 topics. You keep on winning.
I keep on winning, yeah.
Over and over. And this was your topic, and here we are.
Also, Gap Bridgers, why do you vote differently than everyone else?
It's so interesting. Y'all have such different... If you want to really influence what we talk about, the Gap Bridgers, the ones that are $50 level, are the ones that get to vote every month on these topics. And we do have tiebreakers just in case, because that tends to happen, and that helps inform what we might do for our monthly Patreon episode. But yeah, y'all have your own tastes.
You march to the beat of your own meat.
Farmer. This also on our survey, we have a ton of ideas that we got from our survey that are on our list of ideas to consider, and rural was one of the topics that several people filled in themselves. So we're touching on rural things by way of this. So thank you for all the topics y'all suggested on the survey. Yeah. So the most academic thing I have is a thesis that was written about queer farming, and one of the areas, it was 100 and fucking something pages, so I did not read the whole thing. I read the section where the person Michaela Hoffelmeyer, that sounds like a name I would have made up, but it is Hoffelmeyer, interviewed and observed 20 queer farmers. So that's what I'm going to tell you about the findings that they had from there. So this is from the thesis, Sexuality and Sustainable Agriculture, Queer Farmers in Northeastern U.S. This is a thesis in rural sociology 2019 for the Pennsylvania State University. So Michaela conducted interviews and observed 20 queer farmers in the northeastern U.S. And just here's some bullet points of what they found. First of all, queer farmers' motivations for being in sustainable agriculture. You looked at being gay in farming. Did sustainable agriculture come up for you?
Well, I did see that. Did I even write this down? God, I did see that there is some evidence to suggest that gay people are more interested in organic farming, sustainable farming.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's what I tended to see. And that's what this says as well. Queer farmers' motivations for being involved in sustainable farming is, first of all, the environmental benefits. So like the good-hearted, good-natured reason of actually wanting those benefits. And in addition, the assumption that sustainable agriculture has greater inclusion of women and by extension, queer people.
Yeah.
So queer people, it said, may be disproportionately involved in sustainable agricultural production. And it was noting that may even be, we should, of course, support queer farmers, but maybe even more important to support queer farmers because they may be the ones that push for and lead the way in sustainable agriculture.
Yeah.
To counter homophobia, many farmers embody what the thesis called rural politics of recognition. So that was presenting as just another farmer to help build relationships and rapport with other farmers, with their customers, with other community members. It is very different than the urban kind of liberal, be out and proud message.
Yeah.
So some of the, messages in big cities or urban areas may not resonate with them because it's like, yo, you might not know what that would be like here.
Yeah.
But we've also seen, we've done episodes about our history and people saying you should act like fit in with others in order to prove that we're just like you versus other people saying like, no, like we don't have to be like you to gain acceptance.
Yeah.
Like we've seen that kind of struggle throughout history. So this is not a new struggle. It's just a different kind of manifestation of that struggle.
Yep. Yeah. The tension has been there for a long time. The assimilationists versus the other ones.
Yeah. The non-assimilationists. A quote I liked is, queer farmers often associated uncertainty, fear, and isolation with living rurally, simultaneously emphasizing an attachment to rural landscape, nature, and farmland. So we I think talked about this in our hometown episode where we talked about rural living as well. And it is this, like, there is something that people are drawn to the rural nature, living there, being there. And it makes sense that some people like that. Some people like cities, and we should have a big mix. You'd expect a big mix of people. The influx to the cities is not because everyone loves cities.
Right.
Some people do, but not everyone. And some people want to be out in the country, live in rural areas and love the nature of it. And it's unfortunate that it comes along with the uncertainty, fear, and isolation. So what helps is the chosen family farm model, which some people use these community-based living or farming units living together on a community. This, in my mind, is the, like, hey, what if we all lived on a commune together, like with your friends?
Yeah. Millennials are obsessed with this idea. Get the commune going.
Yeah. Yep. And which makes sense when you're queer to be like, yo, do we want to help each other out? They also do these mentorships where, like, queer farmers can help those queer people working on farms as a way to kind of bolster each other. Numerous of these farmers interviewed face sexism in addition to heterosexism, which those kinds of things make sense to me, come hand in hand. And of course, the law is part of that. Marriage wasn't legal until 2015. So that has, of course, implications for loan access and land tenure. But something else legal that I was unaware of is, prior to inheritance law changes in 1981, women married to male husbands were not considered legal owners of farms when their husbands died.
Wow. Yeah.
So, I mean, 1981, that's not that long ago. It would be easy for someone to be married in their 20s or 30s and still have a farm today and, like, have been directly affected by that very law.
This whole idea that, like, all of these horrific bullshit problems are way in the past.
Yeah.
Like civil rights, people are like, civil rights is forever ago.
Yeah.
It's like, everything's fine.
Yeah.
Stop whining, black people, or whatever. But, like, no, like, it is in living memory that all of this shit was going down. And
even when laws change, that doesn't, which, I mean, in this case, I'm talking about, like, this one law that did change, that doesn't automatically change people's mentality and their, like, how they were raised and their views. So, yeah. Speaking of, 95% of the sample was identified as white. So this researcher was careful to note that. I think noting where your limitations are, they pointed out why, like, what their sampling technique might have done to cause that. And but still, some of the queer farmers explained how white privilege allowed them to enter the farming space despite being queer. It's what we say often, like, you can have a strike against you, but at least it's not two. Yep. So it's, I think, useful that in spite of being a mostly white sample, that these white people recognize that there's things are clearly not perfect for queer farmers, but they still were afforded that's the thing of white privilege, is it doesn't have to be great for you to still be afforded some kind of benefits that come along with being white. And they suspected that the ability that being queer enables you to understand the plight of other minorities, which I agree with, and I think has helped me in understanding and empathizing with the plight of other minorities that are beyond just my own. And lastly, I will just read this quote. The combination of metronormativity in LGBT spaces, which metronormativity showed up a bunch, and you're nodding. Yeah.
I think that it's a great word.
Yeah. Yeah. And makes sense. It's common within the gay spaces of, like, that's kind of the assumption that that's where you'll go. That's what you'll do. That's how you're safe. That's how you find other people. So the combination of metronormativity in LGBT spaces coupled with heteronormativity in agriculture, has primarily left queer farmers to develop their own strategies and support networks to enter and remain in farming. Yep. It seems like both agriculture and LGBT people, my read of that is like no one's really helping them, and so they have to create their own networks. This is why they create they didn't call it communes, but their community living, their mentorship, like they have to create these things because others aren't. Like I don't hear LGBT people talking about the issues of rural living that much, or the plight of queer farmers. Like that's not an issue that we're focused on, at least that I see.
Yeah, I agree. And it's interesting because I think it's probably because they are just, flying under the radar as much as possible because of how oppressive those parts of the world can be.
Yeah. And it's interesting, like I said, like you shouldn't have to have a reason to support queer people. That should be a that's just
evident?
Should be. Yes. Yeah. Like that's just how it should be. Mm-hmm. And maybe there's value in supporting queer people beyond just it's the right human thing to do to support sustainable agriculture, which we need anyway, if the earth isn't going to die in a ball of heat death in like 2 years.
Yep.
So there's actually extra value for lots of people if that happens.
It's so interesting how many different ways that segues nicely. Like it's weird. It's really, really weird. So I want to talk to you about some experiences of some queer farmers and like what it's like for them. The first one is Shannon and Eve Mingaloni, and they are doing this work exactly that you were talking about of being the change they want to see in the world, or like bringing the queer. Anyway,
did you say bringing the queer?
Bringing the queer.
Bring the queer. Bring the funk.
They said in this article in NOLA.com, which I don't even know what that is, if you ask yourself to picture a farmer, just picture a farmer, he is male, white, heterosexual, Christian, and conservative. And
he's also wearing overalls. Which I really want overalls. That's how I support queer farmers, by being gay and wearing overalls.
I mean, I've seen some porn.
Yeah.
That takes place on hay bales and, Anyway,
yes.
so they said we vowed to make our farmers market booth quote very gay.
Oh, nice. Wow, they're not doing the like let's just fit in kind of method.
Right. So
that's awesome.
They hang strings of pride flags and they sell rainbow stickers to help pay for gender affirming care like hormone replacement therapy for Eve. And they said that sometimes parents and their teens will go by the booth and the adults will give them glances or looks of disapproval, and then they'll like grab the kids and rush them along. But they said the kids pause for a second look. And Shannon, who's 34, hopes that it means something for them to see LGBTQ professionals out and succeeding.
That's amazing. Like it's interesting, like just knowing that there is at least, in this case, 2 other people that are supportive.
Yep.
Knowing that there is someone in the world that is supportive of that, someone that is like you. I think of queer Jews, and I just think of like the idea of, even conservative Jewish people that are queer walking into gay spaces and like being like, finding someone else like you, like, man, your specific kind of niche, who you are growing up and everything, finding someone else like you is so important. That's awesome.
And they said that people often will come up to them in their gay ass booth and like whisper stories to them.
Oh,
right?
Interesting.
There was a middle-aged woman who confided that her daughter is trans and felt safe talking to them about that.
Yeah.
There was a teen who stood in the middle of the booth and said, quote, "This makes me feel safe."
Oh.
So Shannon said that means everything to me. And anyway, that's at their business is Ramshackle Farm. It's in Harvard, Illinois, and they grow a whole bunch of stuff. And they talk mostly about how it's conservative and kind of uncomfortable, and there's not a lot of community, but this is what we're doing. We're farming and we're trying to be as visible as possible when we're out and selling our stuff. Then I also wanted to talk to you really quickly. It's not just in the United States that these kinds of things are true. So Ralph Schaub, who's the co-founder of gayfarmer.de, which that's Germany, in Wiesbaden, Germany, was interviewed, and they asked him, how is it as a German gay farmer? And his answer was,
Guten Tagen.
Probably in German, but here it is in English. Well, before you know you're gay, at least in my case, you know that you're a farmer. I was born into farming and knew from the start that I wanted to be a farmer.
That's wild to me, like that your identity is more, and it makes sense now that you say it, but more sure that you're a farmer than your identity as a gay person. Okay.
It says, in the beginning, you feel lonely because there are so few others like you around. And you feel even more lonely when you discover that you're gay. Farming takes me to places and areas where, being gay, sometimes you have to be strong in yourself and know who you are in order to claim your identity. Farming is the same way. The world is not set out to groom farmers. You have to be strong and resilient to keep alive. The two identities have intersected highly in my own development.
Yeah, I could never be a farmer. Like I can see how you kind of have to be born into that. Like I grew up in the suburbs, man.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. You could though. Just, you would hate it.
Yeah.
Then I watched, so that was Germany. There's also in New Zealand, this really interesting interview that I saw on Vice, and there was a out gay farmer named Matt talking about all of the closeted gay farmers that he fucks on the side. Many of them are married and have kids and are like super DL closeted.
Yeah.
Whoops. He said a couple of interesting things. I thought one of them, he was flipping the interviewer shit. It was a gay guy that was doing the interview, and he's like, how does it even work? Like, because they pulled up his grinder and the first person on the grid was 4 kilometers away. And he was like, how does that work? Like, do you walk over there? Can you get an Uber or something? And Matt, the gay farmer,
on a tractor,
he said, quote, well, this is the difference between city gays and rural gays. We learned how to drive. He said that there is this very sad entrenchment of gay people, that they get stuck in these heterosexual marriages and they get stuck with kids and running a farm and in isolation. And he said even though that he is out, they are very cold and very distant, very adamant about him not contacting them.
I mean, to be fair, those are the kind of guys I'm into as well. Like,
we talk
you're
about
not
assholes,
special,
right? Like,
I get it. I get it, farmers.
Yeah, but that they seem so terrified to even like run into him on the street, and that a lot of them are like openly hostile to him when they see him.
Well, it's like you got to prove. If you're worried about coming across as being interested, then you got to prove that you're not by being mean. Like, this is why sometimes people that are most animus.
Yeah.
Is that a word?
Animus is a word.
Towards gay people are the ones that are gay themselves.
Yeah. It's a noun, though, not an adjective. Anyway, okay.
Well, I needed to be a verb.
Yeah.
No.
Matt in New Zealand also said some aren't on the apps to hook up even. They're looking for some semblance of acceptance.
I want to cry. To water your crops with my tears. It also, like, I would imagine that unlike city folk, like when you get divorced, you can like, okay, it's not just deciding who gets the house or not. It's like, this is also the family business that you're breaking up. Like,
yeah,
you can't just be like, okay, leave you, honey, and the kids with the farm, and I'm leaving. Like, there's so much more, like, you have at stake there, and have built. Sometimes literally.
Absolutely. And like there was, well, okay, I'll do this one next instead. This one also pulls in sustainable farming. So there's a guy named John Wright, and he's in Australia. And he, what? Are you going to talk about him?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Then I won't.
Should I talk about him, or should I put a butt plug in it?
Put a butt plug in him.
Okay.
You're going to talk about the sustainable shit that he's doing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. I mean, it's pretty magical. And then in the UK, Manchester is a big city. It's a very gay city in the UK. But there's this guy named Keith who's an English farmer out in the boonies, and he said, "quote If you're gay and you live in Manchester, you can go anonymously into gay areas and meet people. When you're a farmer, you have to make massive arrangements to get off the farm. Who's going to do the milking? Who's going to feed the cattle? You can't just decide to go away for the weekend. And on top of that, if you suddenly go away, people are going to ask you where you're going."
Yeah, no one asks me where I am, like on weekends or like various days. Like I just do shit.
But rural life, your absence will be noted, and people will ask you where you've been, and what you were doing. And like they chat at the fucking grocery store about fucking everything, like you're supposed to care about each other's lives. I do kind of miss that sometimes, but it's like anyway. He said they are very, very isolated. The loneliness is enormous. Those are all gay men. I'm going to talk to you more about lesbians a little bit later.
It's sad that like it seems like we're talking about a lot of negative associations with being gay and being a farmer.
Yeah. I mean, because, like farmer, it's agrarian, it's agricultural, it's rural, and all of the gays live in the city, right? Like there's you've got to really fucking love farming, I think, or have no other options to live under the oppression that is rural society.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that there's a more positive spin on it, except all of these gay-owned farms that seem to be thriving in one way or the other, or they're trying to create community,
creating their own community, and the ones that are making a difference, so that like hopefully generations will change and grow and learn from them. I think that's like part of the positive. But yeah, it seems like loneliness is a common theme among queer farming.
Yep. In the stuff that I read, certainly. Yeah.
Should I? Oh,
yeah. Go ahead and talk about John.
John Wright. I watched. It is a easy 20-25 minute documentary from the New Yorker called Alone Out Here. So it's an interesting watch if you want to. So first of all, Australia's carbon emissions output per capita is among the world's highest. Red meat industry produces about 10% of Australia's greenhouse gases, and 2/3 of that come from cattle. So it is a big issue. John Wright is someone that has been speaking out about that, including at industry events. So this is based on not only the documentary, but also the accompanying article that I read in the New Yorker. And he said that when he speaks out about this issue, people genuinely despise not just him, but anyone who does bring it up. And he said they thought you were a bit of a loony.
Yep.
So there was this documentary created about some of the work he's trying to do. That it was a government arts grant earmarked for works about queer people living in rural places, which is, I think, a really cool kind of government grant idea and concept, showing some of these unique areas of queer life that we don't typically see is a really cool idea, because I think that's really helpful to show that there's huge varieties of queer people. And anyway, so the documentary is called A Gay Farmer on Love, Isolation, and Disrupting the Meat Industry in Australia. He, for 22 years, has been working on a line of cattle that reduces methane output.
Yeah, let's make cows that fart less.
Yeah, I too have been working on reducing my methane output. He has been more successful than I.
I mean, he's been trying harder for longer.
We've both been breeding a whole lot to get to where we are. So I get it, John. He came out at the age of 28. It was interesting. I think he said it sounded like this Rumspringa kind of thing. Like his family said, like, you are not allowed to be on the farm until you're 25. And if you want to come back, you can. Mm-hmm. And he decided to come back. He his dad let him go off and do other things, and then he was the one that decided to come back. So he's made this big decision about being involved in farming, which that I think there's the kind of the positive side is like this is the life he's chosen, but also it does come with a cost, which is it's difficult to date. He I think has dated one person. He picked the family business over moving, his other option was going to Sydney and dating. And the filmmaker of this, Cornish, who has been looking at lots of people in rural areas, said, quote, "It was always this consistent story of the stakes being incredibly high because if you have a date with somebody, it has to go well."
Yeah.
Which that's terrifying. Like, at least I bitch about like, there's no one on the apps, and I go on a date and I'm like, nah, and then keep going. Like, that's very different. Imagine the stakes of like the guy one farm over happens to be gay, and you're like, oh God, please be hot.
There's another angle to that. I forget if we talked about it before.
What?
I kind of wonder if people are nicer. It's not settling. That's not what I mean. But I wonder if a lot of rural areas, the gays that do find each other are less distracted. Like they're more able to commit because there isn't that like paralysis by too many options. You know what I'm saying?
I guess so. I also don't like the idea that like that kind of feeds into the stereotype that gay men cheat just because they're other, like you see another gay dude and you're like, oh cool, another gay dude, and then they fuck him, So I don't love that part of it.
I just think that like all of the way that people behave on the apps suggests to me that they're like, they don't want to make any sort of commitment because they're waiting for like maybe somebody hotter will.
Yeah. And
then nothing happens.
I could see that.
And I don't know.
Yeah, I get, you may like give it a more of a shot with someone. You may like, if you have far less options, you may be like, let's really see if there's anything here.
Yeah.
And maybe that could help it go a little bit deeper than just, do I think you're hot right away? Do I swipe left or right? Like,
yeah,
I guess I can see that. So the entire documentary builds up to this bull sale where he's seeing if people are willing to buy this new line of bulls.
Lower farting cows. Yep.
And the answer is no, they're not. They don't. And he's like, talks about like, if we just went with Angus, if I just did this easier option, I would absolutely be selling them right now. Like he picked a path that was the difficult path. He also said, quote, "The more battles you create in your life, the less time there is to hear the silence and the emptiness."
Ooh.
Yeah. So I wonder if we talked about the connection between being queer and fighting for sustainable agriculture. And, he's clearly working on more sustainable practices. And it's interesting, we both in white privilege and understanding other minorities and understanding the truth behind things and accepting of the truth, even when it's difficult. Like those are a lot of reasons I could picture someone being in sustainable farming. But to create battles in order to not have to deal with the crushing loneliness is not one of the ones I considered.
Yeah.
Whew. Yeah.
I just drank.
Yeah. Hey, farmers, have you considered drinking? As Linda Belcher says, it doesn't solve your problems. It just makes them go away.
Yeah. Mommy doesn't get drunk. She just has fun.
The last thing that I will say about him is this quote that I wrote down that I really liked. "The issue of climate change is quite challenging in agriculture. There's a lot of people who believe it's not happening. This is science. This is not me making anything up. It might be the part, I don't know, about being gay and being a gay farmer or something like that. And the part about coming out was just that realization that I can't lie anymore. I can't bullshit anymore. You gotta, I don't know, that you have to be real, that you have to be honest. And that cements something pretty powerful. The only people who aren't talking about it is our industry." So there is something to, he has made this choice for himself in spite of it being difficult already, and then add on the layer of being gay and add it and make it extra difficult. But he's like, this is the right thing, the right place for the industry to go. And I want to make meaning in my life. And I know that this is the meaning that I'm creating. So it's very respectable. I don't know that I could be willing to sacrifice my personal experiences and pursuit of a relationship for this. And so I'm impressed by him. So way to go.
Yeah. I saw a clip of him talking to a bunch of Argentinian beef buyers. Mm-hmm. And there's this woman that was asking him about his legacy and saying, you don't have a son or a daughter here? Yeah. And he's like, no, I never married.
Yeah.
Was his response. And I instantly recognized that as he gave the safest answer that he could. Like in that instant, he was panicking about how to say a true thing and not say that he was gay.
And also like kind of put the stamp on the conversation, not like, nope, I don't have a son or daughter, like ...
Yeah.
You know, like just to be like, I never married is like,
yeah,
kind of answers the,
yeah.
And
I think that's what that world is like.
Yeah.
So I have a really sad thing to say.
Okay.
So I'm going to talk about a bunch of resources that are available to gay farmers.
Okay.
That have cropped up. But I'm going to do the sad one.
One of them's my ass.
I'm going to do the sad one first.
Okay.
So this guy named Keith Innocen, and he is from the UK, maybe from Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland, yeah. And he read, so unlike the United States, in the United Kingdom, they do track LGBTQ plus farmers and farming. And they released data. It's the Office for National Statistics, the ONS, said that about 50 gay farmers a year end their own lives. The fear of coming out to loved ones being one of the main reasons. And the pressure is to an heir. Who's going to take over the farm? So this Keith Innocen guy, he's a former chaplain and an out gay farmer in Northern Ireland, set up the Gay Farmer Helpline in 2010. He said, quote, "The push to get married is enormous from a young age. It's bred in, and it's a very insular occupation." He said even divorce within the farming community is very difficult. You need to keep the farm in the family, and you need to keep it viable. These men don't want to hurt the women, but they just feel they shouldn't have gotten married. And farming is a difficult business at the best of times. There's long hours, poor conditions, tight profit margins. But for gay men, it is deeply excluding. There was a study done in June of 2020 that said that in rural zip codes, at least in the United Kingdom, gay dating was one of the most Googled searches.
Wow.
And he said he was a working chaplain, and he just put his idea for this thing. He put an advertisement in the farming press and said if they needed help, they could contact me. He got his first call that first week and has averaged at least one new call a week ever since. The difficulties are enormous. He said that one person called the hotline and said that he had attempted to end his life and his dad had saved him. And when his dad got to him on time and it became clear like what the reasons were, his dad said that he would have left him to die if he'd known it was because he was gay.
Oh my God.
These are the kinds of stories that he is trying to help people with on this helpline.
Jesus Christ. Fuck that dad.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
You don't get to decide. You don't get to have kids only if and love them only if they meet your criteria. Fuck you.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, he estimates that he's helped nearly 500 gay farmers.
Wow.
Through this
That's amazing.
hotline. And one of the things, this one blew me away. Sorry, well, I'll get less depressing real soon, I promise. But apparently one farmer who was closeted, had a secret life, a secret gay life, had a private relationship with a male friend who died. How he couldn't grieve that. Like,
yeah,
you know, if he was in love with this man who's now gone, who does he turn to in this environment to process the fact that this love ended, right? It's like fucking Brokeback Mountain, Kyle, is what it is.
Yeah. You just, I mean, to have that level of grief and just have to sit on it in the less fun way, like just have to like pretend it's not happening and never show anyone. Man, if that's not a male stereotype, I don't know what is.
Yep. Well, God.
And that's why men have a higher rate of suicide, is because we're expected to like shut down these emotions and never show them, and to add that extra layer of like having it be something like being gay and not being able to talk about that part of it too.
Yep. For reals. Well, the Gay Farmer helpline is at gayfarmer.co.uk or at 078-379-31894, which is way too many numbers for our country, but apparently that number will make sense
to someone.
To someone. Some other resources that are out there. I looked at a bunch of matchmaking sites that are geared towards farmers, and it is wild to me. There's a new one. This is a new service for matching single country folk of all orientations. That's including heterosexual orientations. It's supposed to be for all rural people, but they will let you self-select for I'm into, a man seeking a man, whatever. Anyway, but the name of the service is The Farmer Wants a Wife.
What? Wait. Okay, hold on.
It launched in Ireland last year. Is already a big success, and they're talking about expanding across the UK. But
you got to change that name, bitch.
Got to change that name, bitch. But yeah, Queerty did an article on them as being like a successful place for the gay farmers.
So weird. That's worked for gay farmers.
To find each other.
Is Northern Ireland part of the UK?
Yes, Kyle.
They're not part of Great Britain, though. Is that the thing?
Oh goodness.
We don't have to do this right now. Your deep breath said we're not doing this now. Okay.
So, the farmer needs a wife, or Farmer Wants a Wife is a service that came recommended by gay farmers. Well, if you think that's a bad name, here's another one made by country people for country people. The matchmaking site called muddymatches.co.uk. Muddy Matches.
Muddy Matches? Like we get in the mud, we're dirty, we're not those clean city folk?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, I like that less than the gender, the other gendered option.
Well, that's...
It doesn't matter what I think or want. It's not about me.
It was founded by two sisters that had a farming background.
Hopefully they didn't date.
And,
that's a rural stereotype I shouldn't play into.
But, yeah. Featured in Country File, Horse and Hound, and Farmers Weekly.
They got Horse and Hound? What a get.
Muddymatches.co.uk is another place. It's like farmers only, but in the UK. And then also there are community organizations that are out there trying to build up a identity, resources, sharing even some like social stuff or potentially like dating. Just the whole thing. One is called weareoutintheopen.org. And notourfarm.org. Notourfarm.org, reading through their stuff today, I was fascinated by this idea. They were not questioning. They have a lot of resources that are for farm workers. And the article was talking about why aren't they called farmers? Like most farmers don't actually do the farming. They're more like farm managers. Farms are about ownership. And that's bullshit, and we hate that.
Huh. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so like I've never considered myself a farmer, but I've done a lot of farm work.
Right.
Maybe I have been a farmer.
Huh.
Like if I just use the less bullshit definition.
Yeah.
Like,
I would think the person doing the stuff on the farm would be the farmer. But
yeah.
Another fun thing you can check out is at the Gay Farmers. That was created by Lutz of Germany. It's got some good German representation. It's on Instagram. They haven't posted in like a year, but before that, it was a really cool concept where Lutz of Germany created this account so that people could like send in pictures of themselves, and they would like, post and feature different people to show that like there are lots of gay farmers. Instagram at the gay farmers if you want.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Lots of there. That I think that's the like. It makes sense that we found the loneliness part of it. That does seem to be a really important and heavy part of this topic. And I think the positive side is all the work that people have then done, both in terms of helping other LGBT folks and helping sustainability of farming.
Yep.
That seems to be the kind of positive side of this.
I also think it's got to be getting better. And if only, well, we know it is. Like listeners have written in to say, like, I live in the middle of goddamn nowhere. There are no gay people here, but I feel connected to the gay community for an hour and a half each week or whatever. And we didn't have podcasts when I was growing up, Kyle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there really just weren't ways to reach out and connect that weren't going to a city and going to a gay bar.
Yeah.
Right? So I would hope over time that we would turn the corner and rural queer people, farmers included, would not suffer from such isolation and depression as a result.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have more?
I have something that I could say for Patreon. Did you have a lesbian thing that you wanted to
Sure,
do?
yeah, I'll talk about a lesbian thing. I'm nervous.
Why?
Nervous talking about lesbian stuff.
Oh, why?
Not a lesbian.
I mean, Mike, we're talking about farmers. We're not farmers, so
okay.
we do this a bunch.
That's true. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to talk about Rush Limbaugh.
Okay. Noted lesbian.
Rush Limbaugh. Noted dead lesbian.
Uh-huh.
So Rush Limbaugh said that Obama was sending lesbian farmers to invade red states to make them gay and less conservative.
Sure.
So he went. It was.
Can you imagine an army of lesbian farmers?
I mean,
boy, I'd be scared of that.
They would get shit done.
They would.
This was back in 2016 during the Obama administration. What happened was the USDA and some other agencies had an event called the Iowa LGBT Rural Summit. And the purpose of that was to, quote, share information relating to policies, programs, and services that exist to protect, promote, and strengthen LGBT rural communities. They talked about a whole bunch of stuff. It was in Des Moines. They talked about rural housing loans, community facility grants. They talked about bullying. And
cool.
So then Rush Limbaugh somehow turned that into the Obama administration is trying to recruit lesbian farmers to militarize them, to have them invade red parts of the country to liberalize the culture.
Look, I understand you read the headline of something and you got it misconstrued, but they take these things and then turn them into, like, you add, at least especially back then, you had Obama plus, whatever the headline is, plus is turning everyone gay. Like they're not. Yeah, it's so fucking annoying.
So this is all a quote from him.
Oh no.
Rural America happens to be largely conservative. Rural America is made up of self-reliant, rugged individualist types. They happen to be big believers in the Second Amendment. So here comes the Obama regime with a bunch of federal money, and they're waving it around, and all you got to do to get it is be a lesbian and want to be a farmer, and they'll set you up. I'm like you. I never before in my life knew that lesbians wanted to be farmers.
Oh.
I was embarrassed at that moment to realize that I thought like Rush Limbaugh.
You didn't know lesbians wanted to be...
I didn't know lesbians wanted to be farmers.
But, okay, it's fine to not know that. And then what do you do with that information? You did not rant against...
I read about a bunch of them and realized that they do want to be
there
farmers.
You go, right?
And
that's all you got to do.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do. I think everyone fears that they don't know information, or fears that they'll learn a new identity or learn that they're out of the loop on a thing. And that's okay. It's okay not to know that. It's okay to learn that. It's okay to feel a little dumb when you learn a new thing. It's what do you do once you know that? And do you blame Obama for trying to militarize red states with them? Or do you read up on them and go, now I know. That's cool. It's just... Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and also it's okay, lesbians, to want to be a farmer. I support you.
Yeah.
So it's not the first time that lesbians and farming have been like a thing that was being discussed. In the 1970s.
Oh, what?
There was a organic food movement that a bunch of radical feminists got involved with. And so they created the idea of women's land, WOMYN''S land, women's land. So it started urban, but then it started to shave off and go more rural. Like communes were being started. There's one in Arkansas called Yellowhammer. There's one in Oregon called Woman Share. And they were trying to create these feminist farms, and the lesbians were all over that.
That's not what FF means.
That's not what FF means.
Just if anyone was wondering.
One thing that I thought was really interesting about the whole thing was this article. Anyway, it's modernfarmer.com, an article from 2015. Political lesbianism. So there was a activist and theorist, Ty Grace Atkinson, and she argued that sexual orientation is a choice, that heterosexuality is anti-feminist. So go be a lesbian even if you don't want to, and start a commune with no men in it.
Well, okay. I have some qualms.
But apparently the actual lesbians who loved and were sexually attracted to other women, they didn't always see eye to eye on this. Like,
Yeah, I would think not.
largely those farms and communes have disappeared. There are a couple of them that are still around in a few different places across the country, but feminism and feminist theory has changed since then. The acceptance of queer people has changed since then. Urbanization has also shifted the demographics since then, and just these farms seem to have dried up. But it's just what menopause, I guess.
I don't know that that's the phrasing of that was just interesting.
But yeah, a lot of lesbians were active in this like women's farming movement of the late 60s and early 70s, and so they've been at it for a while.
I didn't mention most of the people in the 20 people interviewed in for the thesis were white, but I didn't mention they were mostly cis women. So there are, at least this was in the Northeast US where they noticed a lot of them forming these community-based farming things. So there is at least some of that still going on. This is a very limited area and scope, but like there's at least some of that still happening.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Did we do it?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't expect farming to be so heavy.
Yeah, we talked about a lot of farming, and we talked about a lot of sad shit.
Yeah, like
I guess I could talk about I grew up there. I think that I for sure sought out confirmation bias style the things that I remember it feeling like to grow up in a place like that. Like I didn't seek out the happy gay farms if there is such a thing, because I just my background, I blame growing up where I grew up on the fact that I didn't come out until I was 30, and that life was pretty fucking terrible from that angle.
And tell people about did you grow up on a farm? We
had cows. It was only 5 acres. It was a small farm. Farm is even a rough word, but I would get up before school and go feed cows and help my dad change sprinklers because we had to keep the alfalfa watered, and we largely ate the cows that we grew. So that was a fun exercise of cutting into a steak and talking about which cow it is that we're eating that we helped raise.
Yeah. And what about that made it difficult to come out until you were in your 30s?
It's not specifically that I was on a farm. It's just that it was a red part of the world, right? It's rural Eastern Washington, Yakima County, middle of goddamn fucking nowhere, 2,000 people in the whole town, and it is very oppressive in the judgments and structures to keep in place anybody who dares deviate from the mainstream.
Yeah.
And that extends to race, that extends to class, that it is just
even talking about what we heard about, like talking about sustainability and the effects on the environment, like that is frowned upon, even talking about that.
Right. Yeah. It's a liberal conspiracy, Kyle.
Yeah. Yep.
Threatening our way of life.
Yep.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, just growing up in that environment, that political environment, that cultural environment, I think I really identify with and empathize with these men that are having these like isolated experiences, because I was there, and like them, thought I was going to get married to a woman and have kids and live a white picket fence life with, that's what I was supposed to do. That's the only life that I could envision for myself.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very much a function of where I grew up.
The irony is like that's where the grooming is happening.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
To make people believe that's their only option and you can't deviate from anything, like that is the enforcement of your own beliefs on your children, like not letting them be their authentic selves. It's interesting because I think farming is a straight stereotype, and I think part of that is, like we're talking about, there are a lot of gay people out there, there are a lot of queer people that are involved in farming, so it's not true, but then there is some truth in the movement to big cities and the escape from rural areas, this kind of environment. So I think there's also some truth to that gay people want to move out of rural areas to be more accepted and be able to find more people. So it's this interesting mix of like this stereotype is true and not true, and
absolutely.
It's a weird mix.
Something else to consider too. I don't know if I count as a farmer or not. By the having done farm work, I like defining that as being a farmer. So I guess I was a farmer in a past life. That makes 3 gay men in my life, if I include myself, that have been involved in farming.
Yeah.
Right.
A surprising number of people in our friend group that have done farming, which is weird.
Yeah. Maybe it's not weird. Maybe that's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like more representative of gay culture and gay people than we think it is.
Yeah. It's just not discussed that much. Like I don't hear people talking about in gay circles about farming or rural upbringings as much.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I think gay people also do a little bit more?
What?
Is play farming apps on their phones.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to talk to you about on Patreon.
Great. Farmville.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So should we take a break?
Yeah, let's take a break.
Let's take a break.
Farm break.
Get in that kennel.
That what?
I don't know.
Kennel?
Kennel.
Kennel. Got it.
This is the part where Mike and Kyle take a break.
Nice taters, Kyle.
What?
Are we back?
No. I want to quit the show after that. We're back.
We're back.
We're going to do our Gayest and Straightest.
We're going to do our Gayest and Straightest, but
nice
first.
Taters.
Yeah. Local gay bar review. This week, we're going to do Chill Bar, which is in Palm Springs, California. I've been to Chill Bar several times, and I've been to Chill Bar twice in the last 6 months. And so I don't remember which visit is which visit, but I've went with some gay fraternity brothers and went with a friend from San Diego.
Well, with multiple experiences, this time you can not just rate your individual experience, but the bar overall.
Yeah, that's true. It's a big bar. It's like a sit-down place. There's a lot of standing, though, because it's quite popular. It's got it is a chill vibe to it,
hey,
which
you did it
adequately named. But then there's like a back area that's a dance floor that is like really dark, and I definitely got groped once, which whatever.
Neighbors.
And then there were go-go boys there, but like different kinds of go-go boys, and I don't know that I've seen other places a silver daddy go-go boy, like a full like daddy bear go-go boy.
Nice.
And at least one of the times that I went, the go-go boys were all wearing sports uniforms. It was like sport night or whatever. And there was like a lacrosse player, and I think the silver daddy bear was wearing a baseball outfit.
I need to go to a sport night. That sounds sexy.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. I enjoy Chill Bar. I think it is indeed chill. And I had sex at least once after it. but not enough to raise it to 5 dildos. I'm gonna give it 4 dildos.
What does a place have to do, Mike? This is literally everything you described that you like in a place that had go-go boys, that diverse crowd. You got laid ones. What does it need? What's missing?
4.5 dildos.
A perfect score does not exist in Mike's world.
It does.
Absolutely. There's no way you will ever give a place a 5. I guarantee it.
Great. Now I have to.
I know.
You dick.
You dildo.
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Tickets for our New York show are on sale right now. Please go and buy it if you want to see us on Sunday, June the 4th. We're going to be at The Spot in Hell's Kitchen on the island of Manhattan in the great city of New York in the state of New York, United States of America, planet Earth.
Please stop this. Okay, you can go to gayishpodcast.com/live to find all of our tour dates and get tickets for New York. Those are the ones that are available right now. The pre-sale is happening until May 1st, so you
Correct.
can get discounted tickets until May 1st.
And tickets are selling, so don't wait.
Yeah.
When it's full, we have to stop. So
Yeah. When you sell all the tickets, then you can't sell anymore.
that's right. That's right. Also, happy and pleased to announce that our show in July in Chicago is going to be at Sidetrack. Very excited about that. That's like my favorite Chicago bar. And we'll be in Los Angeles in September at Akbar, which is another awesome place. I will announce more venues as we get closer.
Yeah, but you can see all the dates at gayishpodcast.com/live.
You ready to do our Gayest and Straightest? No.
Nope.
Because our website is gayishpodcast.com without the /live.
Yeah.
But you can add the /live if you want to.
If you want. You can go to our Discord, our Spaces, our Facebook group. Find all those at gayishpodcast.com/contact.
Our hotline, you can send us text messages or leave us voicemails, is 5855-GAYISH. That's 585-542-9474. Standard rates apply.
Our email is gayishpodcast@gmail.com.
And our physical mailing address is Post Office Box 19882, Seattle, Washington, 98109.
And we have a new merch on the merch store. So if you want a news theme song shirt, there are a couple different options, including one with a gag ball in someone's mouth for Shut Your Mouth Hole, and a Hey Mike, Hey Kyle mug in the shape of the Progress flag. So check those out, gayishpodcast.com/merch.
Do it.
Yeah. Gayest and Straightest?
Let's do our Gayest and Straightest. I'm happy to go first.
Okay.
The gayest thing about me this week was the Friday before Easter. I went and visited my dad, and he asked me if you and I were dating.
Oh, wow. After all this time, I would think, what'd you say?
I said no.
Oh, don't get to say it with that face. I'm delightful.
You know, it felt very gay to talk to my dad about gay things. I think he was just trying to let me know that he was okay with like talking about stuff.
Oh, that's sweet.
And, yeah. And then the straightest thing about me this week was the same evening my dad and I changed the headlight in my Jeep. So we took his toolbox out there and did dad-son car repair bonding shit, you know?
God, whenever my dad would try to teach me shit about cars, I'd get so angry at him. I would get so annoyed. I'd be like, Dad, I'm never going to remember this. This is horrible.
And you don't even own a car now.
That's
Fuck
true.
you, Dad.
Yeah, I won.
How about you?
My gayest is I worked my first shift at the Trevor Project where I actually took phone calls.
How did it go?
A lot of hang-ups.
Really?
Yeah, some people call in and they like get anxious or they just want to test out to see what the service is like. So there are lots of different reasons that someone may hang up. But I had some people hang up, had some people kind of talk about world events and you know, had just a variety of kind of different calls.
I could understand a person like panic hanging up, like as soon as there's another person on the line. But do people hang up like well into the call?
Sometimes, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
And that could be someone walked in the room and they don't want to get found out or something is overwhelming. Like there's a lot of reasons that could happen. And it's, if anyone is considered calling in, like people that are answering the phones are people like me that just care and want to talk. So if you're in a crisis, please do it and use the services. My straightest is now I went to the Kraken game and boy, it was my straightest.
Yeah.
There's just
Were there any hot hockey boys?
You can't really see them because they're all like behind their stuff. I mean, yes, they're like, these like preview videos and all these videos that happen on these big screens, and absolutely some super duper hot, like cracking boys. I'd let them
whip.
crack my. Our mascot is also a dumb troll that I fucking hate. It's like the stupidest decision ever. Anyway, but that's for sure my straightest thing of life.
Great. Listeners, Gayest, Straightest. We got a voicemail.
Hi, Mike and Kyle. It's Donna Sugars.
Hi.
Loving the shows. I'm officially caught up. I'm so happy. And hi, Derek. So nice to meet you. I just wanted to give you my gayest and straightest. I finished my bathroom, which is kind of both. So my straightest would be working with tools and caulking and spackling and sanding and whatnot. And I think the gayest is when I was reattaching the handle for my douche nozzle on the wall for convenience. And I realized I can leave this here because it's my house. So that was my gayest and straightest. I love you guys. I love this show. I'm so happy to be caught up. And Mike, I do kind of want to fuck your younger brother. Sorry. Bye, Derek. Have a good day.
Donna Sugars. That was a journey.
Thanks, Donna Sugars. I felt excited for you. I felt masked. I felt a little bit left out of the hitting on. So yeah, there's a big journey there for all of us. If you want to leave us your gayest and straightest, you have a far better likelihood of getting on the show if you actually leave a voicemail, because we like those. So leave a message with your gayest and straightest.
Yeah, do it.
I think that's it, right?
That's it. We did it.
We did it.
I would like to say thank you to all of the Lesbian Farmer Army members.
Yeah,
for killing Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah, yes, that was the biggest contribution, and corn. And thank you to all the gay farmers. Thank you to our Gap Bridgers for voting on this topic. I think this ended up being a heavier one than I thought was going to, but I'm glad we talked about it. Thank you to our Super Gap Bridgers: Andrew Bugby, Christopher M., John Crowley, Stephen Porch, Yost Dosel, Harry Shaw, Josh Copeland, Jonathan Montañez, Wadu. Hello, welcome. Forrest Nail, Patrick Martin, James Barrow, Steve Douglas, Explosive Lasagna, Michael Covington, Just Jamie, Kevin Henderson, Thomas B., Timothy Sora, Dusty Sands, A. Coleman, Chris Cacciatorians, and Jerome York.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
That's it. This has been Gayish from the Chris Cacciatorian Studios. I'm Mike Johnson.
I'm Kyle Getz. Until next week, be butch, be fabulous, be you. See you next week.
Bye.
Farm.
The United Kingdom includes Northern Ireland. That's what all the fighting was about.
Okay.
Yeah. Protestants and Catholics.
There's something that's not included in the United Kingdom.
The rest of Ireland.
The rest of Ireland. Okay.
It's its own
The rest
country.
of Ireland is not part of, but Northern Ireland is.
Yeah.
Great.
Which then was a problem because when Brexit happened, now there's like a border between them that, what do you do with it? Anyway, blah, blah, blah.